Episode 156, IRONMAN 70.3 Super Frog with Andrew Lewis.
Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. Today I'm talking to my best friend Andrew Lewis about his recent race experience at Super Frog 70.3 that took place on September 16th, 2018, where he had a time of 5 hours, 13 minutes, 58 seconds. The temperature on race day was 64 and rose to 80 with the wetsuit legal swim. Andrew is a data geek and loves to talk about everything data related, so we're going to get into the weeds with some of that shit. Welcome back to the show, Andrew. I look forward to hearing about your race experience at Super Frog.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Terry. Love being on your show. It's always great to be here.
Awesome. So, just so you know, we're probably going to cuss this episode because I know our mindset and I know how friendly we are with all this fun stuff. So, brace for impact with that. It's going to be a great episode. So, why did you want to do Super Frog in the first place, man?
I just love this race. This is the third time I've done it, and everyone thinks it's fast or whatever, and it can be the most brutally painful race that you will ever do, realistically.
Okay.
And it's close, and I'm local.
Well, that makes sense. Now, we talked earlier this year about a race that you did. How have you been since then in regards to your training with Adam? I know I talked with Adam, and we talked a little bit about how good of an athlete you are with him and how things work, but how have you been on your end?
Well, honestly, I had a bit of a foot issue to where after Oceanside, I did Wildflower, and after that, I got a little bit of a foot issue to where I couldn't really run without paying the ball of my left foot. So considering this race, that was the 7th run I had done this whole summer, essentially.
Wow.
So, yeah, but the biking has been fairly consistent. The swimming, I put some little time in the past 2 weeks, essentially.
So you haven't been swimming that much?
Not as much as I should be.
So now, did you miss the training, or was it just not scheduled?
No, I just missed it. Work happens. Started a new job in early May as well within a different institution, and it's hard to prioritize everything and schedule everything appropriately.
Okay. Now, you've been on your bike quite a bit. I mean, we talked a little bit yesterday about how you've done the 70.3. You watched the Worlds at like 11 o'clock at night and doing the bike ride with them, basically. What other bike rides were you doing that you wanted to hit going into this race?
For this one, we didn't do the whole course, horses for courses philosophy, because this course is flat. So we didn't just do all that. I mean, I did Mount Baldy once with Connor Torrey and some of our other friends. And that was really, really fun. I'd never done that before. Did some other just hilly rides and just consistent power and harder efforts, more or less. Although I'm a huge data geek, I've been less reliant on the data than I have been in the past.
Okay. So right now, I know we talked a little bit about your FTP that you've been wanting to hit and comparing it on because you're using Zwift, right?
Yes. So
what kind of workouts have you been doing in regards to using your FTP with that?
With regards of using the FTP to that, Adam says that I don't want you riding less than 170 watts. So unless it's designated easy and in big capital letters on Training Peaks, it is not ever less than 170 watts ever. And typically it's never less than 200. On some of the harder efforts, we could do a 10-minute interval at, say, 280 to 300-ish or something along those lines. And then we'll do microbursts where it's 50 seconds all out, 15 seconds easy, or whatever that may be. And then on an outdoor ride, unless it says easy, that one I train exclusively to power outside. I have this setup where it's these puncture-resistant tubes, and then they put the gator skins on. The puncture-resistant tubes come in a box that's probably, if you take a cereal box and cut it up, like straight up and down, it's half of that. That's how big that box is. I would suspect that adding those with the gator skins adds 100 watts to resistance, essentially riding your bike through wet cement or mud.
Wow. So you're basically strength training in a sense on the bike.
Yeah, because power is power. I mean, speed is all relevant, but power is power. So it doesn't matter. It's purely objective.
Right. Now, going into this training block from the time you got done with Oceanside and Wildflower, did you get injured at all? I know you mentioned a little bit with this foot issue and you didn't really get to run a lot, but was this an injury?
I think so. I went to the doctor eventually, got the x-ray. Of course, it's negative. Then went and got an MRI, and then he called it sesamoiditis or something like that. It basically, picture your kneecap is like a sesamoid bone in your body where it's not actually connected to another bone more or less, or a solid bone. It's just a bone that's inside of ligaments. And so apparently under the ball of my foot, it was incredibly inflamed. I don't know. So I'd been on some prescription pill, and then I'm still using this cream today, just overly cautious, more or less. And then after I do runs, I do an ice bath with my foot in the water as well.
So you're icing it just for like 20 minutes at a time?
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes at a time.
Okay. And do you rotate that 2 or 3 times, or what is that?
The icing?
Yes.
That's just only after I'm running. So it might be once, twice a week if I'm running that much. So, I mean, it'll start to increase more and more because I'm running more.
Okay. Were you doing a lot of bricks in training, or were you just strictly biking for the most part?
It was swimming, and the past 2-3 weeks, it was a lot of swimming and a lot of biking. And if I was running, then they would always be after a bike ride.
Okay.
And then the longest run prior to this race was actually another race that I did, which was a 10K. So that was the longest run leading up to this, just to see, hey, can I do this?
Right. Now, I know that this run course is, for the most part, like, 85, 90% on sand?
Yeah, it's about, so this, the swim is 2 loops, the bike is 4 loops, and the run is 4 loops as well.
Okay.
Of the run, I would say approximately 10 miles is on the sand.
Okay. So,
and that's a mixture of the deep sand and then the hard pack, but even though it's not really super hard pack.
Okay. So how did you prepare mentally and even in training for this run on the sand? Because running on sand is hard.
Because I'd done it before, I knew what to expect. This time, prior to this, with the injury, I went to this grass field up by myself, and each loop around it is 0.36 miles, I found out with the Garmin watch. And so I ran on this grass loop for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And that was essentially, I felt very similar to what sand would have been like. And it's not hard like a golf course. It was kind of soft, not muddy, so to speak, but it's like freshly watered grass, and there's kind of that sponge effect, similar to that.
Okay. And whenever you're doing this, does this like, what I'm trying to ask here is, does this provide like strength training for your ankles? Because running on sand, you kind of need that stability in your ankles to kind of be able to flex and roll a little bit without falling down. Is that what you're trying to mimic?
Trying to mimic that and try to mimic the loose footing more or less, because it's not at all stable, obviously. So that's what I was trying to mimic. And I mean, I realize I've got the beach close, but I honestly can't stand the damn beach. So I don't want to go anywhere near it, to be honest with you.
Wow. Now, going into this race, when did you have your last bike fit?
Last bike fit was May or June, I want to say.
Okay, so you get them quite often.
I would suggest anybody go 2 to 3 times a year. Maybe that's overkill for me, but honestly, reasonably, everybody go at least once a year. You change, you get more flexible, things move on the bike. I go 2 to 3 times a year just because of the fact that my fitter is close.
But Adam, it's like $250 to go once.
He throws me a solid.
Not Adam. Sorry, Andrew. It's like $250 for a fit.
A race is $400 or $500. Nutrition's whatever. So I mean, it all adds up. In this place, I mean, if you're going to be out there, say 2.5 hours, you got to be comfortable, right? And you want to be optimized for your current flexibility measures and your current level of fitness. I mean, let's say you lose 20 pounds. Well, your stomach won't hold you back then. And just general people, your stomach won't hold you back more, right? You can bend at the waist more or whatever. That can happen. Or let's say you get significantly more flexible. There's a different position that you can get there because your hamstrings aren't going to be as tight, or your glute muscles won't be as tight.
So how important is the right fit on race day in regards to power, output, speed for that course?
Well, so for a course like Super Frog, I would consider that, and I'm going to use air quotes here, a power course. It's very flat. It's supposed fast, and there's no hills in it, really, realistically. I think you gain like 200 feet because you cross over this overpass a few times. That said, it's incredibly important. You are in aero position other than the 2 U-turns and then the two right-handed turns on the course, or three turns on the course. Other than that, you are in aero position. So that is paramount that you stay in aero position, because if you're doing, say, 25.5 miles an hour at 250 watts, well, that's reasonable. And then the second you sit up, that either goes up to 320, 330, or your speed backs down.
Because in a sense, you're like a wind sail at that point.
Yes. So this one is incredibly imperative that you sit in aero and you're able to hold aero position the whole time.
Okay. Now, in regards to some quick savings that people can do, I know the aero helmet is by far the biggest investment anybody can make, right? Aside from the bike and bike fit. Besides
the bike fit, the easiest purchase, the 2 slowest parts on you are your head and your shoulders, or shoulder area where your armpit is. I would say a helmet and a properly fitting skin suit are 2 important things. Another cheap thing for guys out there, shave your damn legs. It costs nothing, and it saves you, depending on how hairy you are, it could be anywhere from 12 to 18 watts.
What is that in regards to time savings over a 70.3? What does that look like?
It's probably when I tested, it was 78 seconds for 40 kilometers. So let's just say double that. So we're talking about 2 minutes and 20 seconds by shaving my legs.
Of free speed.
And then don't tape shit to your bike. Just like any wattage pickup that anybody can get. Then you tape $5 worth of gels to the bike. You would just ruin any benefit that you could have had. And you just, all of a sudden, you've taken your $3,000 bike or whatever you paid, and your $1,000 wheels and your $1,000 helmet, not $1,000 helmet, but $200 helmet, and then you just thrown it all away with $5-10 worth of stuff.
Wow. So now for the front hydration, do you recommend like the XLab Torpedo so that way you can have something right there? What do you recommend for the front hydration or hydration systems in general?
So through testing, I found that there's a few bottles that make the bike faster, but that's only dependent on if the back of the bottle runs flush with the head tube. Very similar to like if you're going to, it's just like an extension, almost like a fairing essentially. I have found that the Torhans 30 bottle, which I no longer use because of the fact that the bracket kept breaking on me, I use the Profile Design FC35. Now, they used to have it where you would flip them out upside down, and that would bring the bottle lower and back. Now you have to mount that from the underside of the bars because of their new mount, which is a superior mount. And I use that bottle, and make sure and keep the straw a little tucked because that just, if it's sitting out there, it's just going to add wind resistance.
Okay, so don't have your straw sticking up. You want it,
yes.
You want it tucked.
Yes.
Okay. Don't go there. I know what you did there. Profile Design, which bottle was that?
I have the FC35.
FC.
It holds 35 ounces.
Wow, that's a big ass bottle.
Yeah, I mean, and it's real thin, and it sits between your arms pretty well.
Okay. Now, in regards to your arms, how do you want to hold your arms on here to be the best?
So if you're going to do that, let me see if I can get all this here. You want to stack your hands so you want to tilt the aero bars in, like rotate them in, and then you want to stack your hands, similar to if you're going to put one on top of the other. That through normal testing and through research, that makes almost everybody 2 to 3 watts faster. But it's if you stay consistently in that position. Anytime you get up to take a drink or something along those lines, it'll slow you down. Like let's just say a drag coefficient is 0.25. That will bring you down to 0.45. that will slow you down a tremendous amount just to sit up and drink. So anything that you can do to stay in your aero position will make you faster.
Gotcha. Now, I've had people on this show so far. I know there's going to be over episode 145 for sure. Not sure exactly what number at this point in time, but I've had people on here that have road bikes with aero bars on there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you have a large budget, the tri-bike is going to be faster. It just inherently will be faster. The road bike with clip-on bars, I don't like it because if you take a look at the seat tube on a tri-bike, they're typically about 78 degrees. On a road bike, they slant back, so away from the handlebars, which doesn't sound, they're like 73 degrees, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you look at a triangle, that's further away your top is from your handlebars, right? Especially if it gets longer. So then you're just slamming your hip angle shut, and you're not rotating your pelvis forward, you're just bending over. So does it make you faster on a road bike from a road bike to a road bike with clip-ons? Yes, you'll be faster. Would I suggest a tri-bike over that? Absolutely. But then again, if you don't have the budget to have 2, 3, 4, 5 bikes and you only have the one bike, then yes, I would suggest the road bike with clip-ons. But anything else, I would always suggest a tri-bike just because it's designed for that purpose.
Because the geometry of the tri-bike is made for you to run off the bike efficient and well because of how the muscles are going to be stressed on the bike. Is that right?
Yeah. And let's just go with that. Yes.
Okay. Now, if we just take a comparison, I know you've done a lot of testing and whatnot with, you good now?
Yep.
Okay. So whenever you've done all your testing and all this fun stuff, I know you've done some velodrome testing, wind tunnel testing, all this nonsense that I've never done before. But if you had to actually put a number on the time that you would save going from a road position on a road bike for a 70.3 versus a tri-bike for the same power for a 70.3 on a tri-bike, what would you say the difference would be? Did I ask that right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how much savings it would be. The only reason why is because on the road bike in the road position, which there's a lot of different schools of thought, but I can generate significantly more power in the road bike. I don't know what the actual time savings would be. That is way out of my math pay grade. The best way you could do that would just be go to bestbikesplit.com, enter the same power, and then enter a road bike, and then enter a tri-bike, and just put your parameters in there, and it'll tell you a window of difference. It won't be like exactly, you'll be 2 minutes and 5 seconds faster. But my gut reaction is you'll be faster on a tri-bike, and it probably would be off less effort. I mean, you can, I talked to a few guys that did this course. So one of the guys, afterwards, I did a 224 high bike split or 225, something like that. Depends on where the time mat was. My Garmin said 224. So I'll just go with that, I guess. I did that off of 231 watts of normalized power. Now, this guy did a 218, 219, and it was not the teammate of mine, but so obviously that's 5 minutes faster, right? But he did that off of 60 watts of more power. So is it worth it? Well, when you're talking about 300 watts versus 230 watts, there's an inherent difference. 2 years ago when I did the same race, me and my friend of mine also did the same course. I did it off of 190 watts of normalized power, and he did it off of 240 watts of normalized power, and I was 30 seconds faster. So both had a tri-bike, both had deep section wheels. Now, so that then goes to position on the machine, because most frames will be similar in speed, realistically. It depends. So the rider is 80% of the wind resistance and how you fit on the machine. So I was 50 watts faster on the same course with a 30 seconds faster time. So what does that mean? Well, power readings could be different. Yes. He had a hub-based power and I had crank-based power, but I don't think it's substantial to where it would be, I'm reading 50 watts less on my meter and you're reading 50 watts more on yours. I was ultimately able to get to the run quicker with less effort expended.
Right, and that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
So in regards to all of this wind resistance, watt savings, and all of this, if somebody is listening that wants to actually do nothing as far as spend money, but wants to save some time and get it a little bit faster for nothing, basically just shave your legs and learn how to overlap your hands a little bit. Is that right?
Yes.
What else is there?
The positioning of bottles on the machine. I have, other than the new BMC Aero bike, which is their Aero road bike, which has their little hydration system inside the triangle of the bike. So between the top tube, the down tube, and the seat tube.
In the hole.
So in the hole, essentially, you call it, yes. I call it the triangle for some reason. Any bottle there will hurt aerodynamics at all. They all do. Unless it's one of those Aero bottles, they typically all hurt it. They may make it aero neutral, which means adding no drag, but everything in that triangle would just, and I don't know, it's different on how you sit on the machine versus like how I would sit on a machine and bike to bike and whatever bottle cage. And if you got a 60-ounce bottle or a 12-ounce bottle, they all will make the bike slower.
So you're saying don't use the Speedfield 40-ounce bottle there and wrap the straw and zip tie it up and have it flying around?
That, I've never actually tested it. I've asked about it, and Jim said that it's not as bad as what you think it would be. So, but that said, again, it depends on everybody else. It's not going to make the bike faster. It's just not going to be as bad as some of the other placements of bottles. But so like behind the seat's a good one. But again, you have to get up to grab your bottle. So
if you can do it from in Aero, it's even better.
Yeah. So the BTA solution, other than a few bottles that act as a fairing, they really don't make it faster. And in all honesty, and I'm a data geek, just get the engine more powerful. I mean, it's not like if you set a bottle up there and you gain 2 watts, really, is 2 watts going to make or break your damn Ironman? No. Not really. I mean, it's sure that looks great on paper, but it's 2 watts, or whatever it may be. So
that makes sense. Now, you made me lose my train of thought because I was going to ask something really great, but then I lost my train of thought. So thanks. I know you train exclusively almost indoors, and you use Zwift a lot, and almost all of your training is indoors. And we talked about that a little bit last night, but why?
I don't want to get hit by a car. Some of the workouts will be really difficult. So it's mentally, because you don't want to crash the bike. No one ever wants to crash. So there's been a few times when I have gone to the well pretty hard and I've fallen off the bike in my training room just because I've gone so hard. Now that outside would be not fun. Let's just, ground, hurt, not okay. So I like the inside. It's not as bad as everyone says, and I think it's a better trend benefit. It's like open water swimming versus swimming in a pool. Yes, swimming in the pool, you look at this black line for hours, but you can control everything. On the open water, it's the best you can do is big loops, and it's not structured. You really can't structure it so much, same as you can in the pool. Same difference.
That makes complete sense, and I like it. I mean, personally, I train a lot indoors. Even though I'm doing this marathon training, it's a lot of treadmill work because I can control it. I know I'm not going to roll an ankle over a curb. I don't have to worry about timing of the day. I can just train, and I know exactly what speed I'm going to be running-ish because every treadmill is calibrated just a little bit different. But if it's all time-based, it doesn't really matter. So going into this race, what FTP were you basing everything off of?
I was basing it off of a 305 to 315 FTP. That said, I wrote a plan to race at 210 to 220. And just because, now I realize the metric is you want to race at 85% of your FTP. Up above a certain point, you're gaining fractional miles an hour to spend, which at an enormous usage, right? The faster you can get there, more efficiently you can get there, the better. So the difference between me going 24 and 25 miles an hour is I'm doing in 24 miles an hour at approximately 240 to 250 watts. 25, I'm in the 280 range. So the expenditure is significant, while as the time savings, it's not like, it's not going to be earth shattering, right?
Diminishing returns.
Yes. So, but Adam sent me a text and an email on this and said, basically, I want you to ride the bike hard and don't be a slave to a device. So in this case, this is one of the first ones I've ever done like this as far as 7.3 is concerned, where I did look at the Garmin occasionally just to make sure I was on the right speed or whatever, but I really wasn't looking at power. I was just more of RPE and recording it just to make sure. And truth be told, then I did 231 watts of normalized power, which I felt that was okay. Like, could I have gone faster and harder? Yes. What would it have got me? 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes, maybe. I mean, I don't see how that would have made or break the day, because after the swim, I was incredibly fatigued. That was just awful. And so it wasn't going to take a dismal swim and then make the day awesome all of a sudden.
Right. Now, as far as your training goes, you weren't really doing a lot of running. Was Adam wanting to basically convert your bike fitness to your run fitness, or what was this like as far as your mental game running? Because only running 6 miles before 70.3 isn't really ideal. You want to have a little bit more miles in your tank, right?
Oh, normally we would have a substantial bit more. I told him that the foot was hurt, and the doctor actually recommended that I take 2 to 3 weeks off, which I've run entirely. So I was able to run in a week and a half prior to Super Frog.
Wow.
So, other than that, I'd run and then I would hurt for 2 days. So I couldn't run for 2 days, and then I'd run again, and then it would hurt again for 2 or 3 more days. And so he just was and plus the idea here was never to race this hard because I have Indian Wells coming up. So there was never this. It never felt like the A race for the year. So it was just more, let's go have fun. Let's see how we can do. Let's test something out and ride hard. Whereas, after a hard swim, obviously, and see what you can run. So, and I'm using air quotes there.
Gotcha. Now, whenever you started actually going to this race, I know it's local to you being that you live in the area. How was your check-in process at the village and all this fun stuff?
Oh, it's super easy. I took the Friday after work, and because I couldn't check in the hotel till 3:00. So I drove down from my house which is in South Orange County, down to Coronado area, which is the race actually takes place in Imperial Beach. So I drove there. I think I was the second person in line. Got all my stuff. Then in years past, they had the big white IRONMAN tent with all the IRONMAN branded gear really close. This year, for some reason, it was well over 100 yards away. And normally, people get the little backpack thing, which I actually liked this one for this one. It was different than Oceanside was this year. It was actually a cool little backpack. I'll actually use it.
So it's not like to have the zip on the corner, zip over here, and fold over.
It was a little backpack, and it was kind of one they gave us, think 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know. I'm actually going to use this functionally, but it's not that sling bag. It's not the one they gave us at Oceanside. I don't know where it is, or else I'd show you, but it's actually a pretty little cool thing. But so you had to go walk way over there to go to this Ironman tent. And in the actual tent, they had a guy sitting there, and they didn't have any, get your swag bag or whatever the hell it is. They didn't have that anywhere. I had to ask a few people, hey, where'd you get the backpack at? They said, they pointed over there in the corner, and they said, yeah, I've answered this for 10 people. So then you walk through the vendor booth, and and I saw Connor Torrey. He's a fellow big sexy guy, and he works for the bike shop that was the shop. And then we just kind of shot the shit for a little bit. So
okay. So after you get done with all this fun stuff, you go check your bike in the day before the race. Any issues with the machine or anything like that? Hey everybody, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and I just want to let you know that I've enjoyed having so many people on this show, and I couldn't really do it without your support. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and being a part of what I'm doing. If you would, take a few moments to leave me a review over on iTunes. It would help me out tremendously, and enjoy the show. So after you get done with all this fun stuff, you go check your bike in the day before the race. Any issues with the machine or anything like that?
The checking into the bike?
Yeah.
Oh, not at all. Saturday, did the quick, easy spin out, run like normal. Drove there, checked the bike in, zero issues. I mean, the rack spot I had, which was really, really good for this one. I really appreciate this spot. So I had no complaints. It was Saturday, and then normally I used to put a plastic bag over the seats and then a plastic bag over the left crank arm because I used to have a Stages power meter. Now I have a Pioneer one, and you can't really cover the entire Pioneer meter, so I just kind of let it fly, and it seemed to work out pretty well.
Okay. So going from the Stages power meter to the Pioneer power meter, have you noticed a difference in wattage, how it reads, anything like that? Because I know you probably double tested it. There is a big myth of these Stages had single leg power and all that horse shit. All right. If we're doing a criterium, that's one thing. Okay. Where the power is incredibly volatile and you're in a big Tour de France type spread or something like that. We do Ironman, which is consistent power over a longer period of time. That said, the Pioneer power meter records multiple metrics. It does a true left-right balance. By the way, most people are really, really close on their left and right power legs. Unless you've got one leg that's like the size of a pencil and the other one the size of like a tree stump, odds are you're really, really close on power. The Pioneer meter, though, if you use the computer, which I've got big hands, and so it's a touch screen, so I still haven't gotten to it right. It records more data and more data points to focus on. That said, that would be useful in training, but when you're racing, especially when I'm not sitting there looking at the device the entire time, that might be overkill. But there is an incredible amount of data on that meter to observe. Okay. Now,
and it connects immediately. I mean, everything is great with that power meter. So
okay. Now, I know you're wanting to air up your tires to 105 thereabout. And you're using the Flow wheels. Why the Flow wheels and why 105? Why not something a little bit lower versus different wheels? Why the setup?
Why the setup? Through all of the aerodynamic testing, and I don't want to go, as I don't own the data to it, so I don't want to say what's faster, what's slower. Flow, it provides I'm a big guy, so I'm 185 pounds, which I like to have the metal brake track. That said, Flow provided the most cost-efficient aerodynamic solution. There are wheels that really, really, really take off, but it requires a 25C tire. The Felt IA cannot house a 25C tire in the rear. Or at least on the setup how I have it done now, it can't house there. So you could make adjustments to it. I think maybe you'd be able to get there, but you're splitting hairs there. I mean, it's not going to be, if you ride this one wheel and put the 25C tire on, it's going to make you 20 watts faster. It might be 3, and the same goes with the front. We all saw Cam Wharf last year at Kona. I think he rode a 40 millimeter front wheel. Maybe a 60, maybe. But that was and he sets the Kona course bike record. So that's super fast. Okay. So there's that. And yes, he's a former pro Tour de France cyclist. I get that. But he still's got to ride that, finish it and everything. So, if you can't stay in the aero position, there's crosswinds, and this one did have a fair bit of wind, then it doesn't matter if it's the most aerodynamic wheel on the planet. That said, I chose the Flows. It's a carbon or black kind of color with a red decal, so it matches my bike fairly perfectly, and I could buy the set of 90s with a disc. The difference between the Flow 90 rear and the disc, I think they said it themselves where you might save 40 seconds, maybe, between the rear 90 and the disc. I just like the way the disc looks. It looks cool. So, and the front, they're so similar now that even a 60 millimeter is going to test very based on interaction with the bike frame and the wind and everything. It's not going to be, you say you 60 millimeter wheel and you're 90 and your 60 is going to be 4 or 5 minutes faster. The technology's already caught up there. The best thing for that would be, if you run clinchers, or if you run tubeless, I don't like, I can't get it set up properly, and I've had one blow up on me once, or I suffered a failure where I sat a huge piece of glass and it just spewed sealant. Like, that's going to flat regardless of what I hit, whether it's tubeless or tube. So I run the Continental GP 4002S with the latex tubes, and that's got very low roll-in resistance. So and then 105 is I'm a bigger of a guy, so 105 there was no scientific reason as to why 105. It just feels kind of nice, and it's not on the verge of blowing the tire limit. Now, the latex tubes weep air. So let's say I inflate it to 105, they lose a few pounds. And that will say like I inflated at 5:30 in the morning. I'm not riding until 7:30 in this case. It's going to weep a few PSI out of it.
Okay.
So
now, earlier this year, I talked to Ben Miller about his race down at Gulf Coast. Or, no, I'm wrong there. Haines City. Getting those two mixed up. Ben is 6'3", 235 pounds. And I want to say he rode that course at 80 PSI. And you're smaller than he is. So why the big fluctuation between PSI?
That could be tire choice. I think his bike can handle a 25C tire. So if you go wider, then you can run less PSI.
What is standard across the board?
For what?
For the width of the wheels or the tires.
Well, so that's going to be not the external width, but the internal width of the bead, right? So we've all seen what Toadstool looks like in Mario Kart, right?
Yes.
You know, so it goes up and then mushroom head. You don't want that to happen. However, every tire wheel combination is different. So that said, it's a lot of a comfort choice. I mean, if you felt a tire squeeze at 80 pounds versus 100 pounds, I've just always ran 105 pounds. So Ben ran 85. Maybe that's why he crashed. I don't know.
Oh, that's messed up. Come on now. Why do you have to go there? Come on,
man. The Hulk and I are cool like that. So
man, throwing him under the bus. I wasn't trying to throw him under the bus, man. Man, that's so messed up.
Sorry, Ben. Nothing but love, buddy.
God. So whenever you actually get to the day before the race, we'll actually start diving into the race now that we've gotten to the weeds a little bit. You get to the day before the race, you get everything checked in, all that fun stuff. What are you trying to get for nutrition the day before the race?
So a few days before the race, I start doing a carbo load, in air quotes, more or less, where I stop eating the complex, like brown rice carb, where I start to do easily digestible carbs. So I will switch from brown rice to white rice. The day before the race, breakfast was the normal consistent shake. And then at the hotel, they had a continental breakfast. So in addition, I had a bagel with cream cheese. And that was a plain bagel if it matters. Then for lunch, I had a foot-long Subway sandwich, because I don't want to go to Browntown. I don't want to have any GI issues or anything weird like that. So I figure that's something where I know what to expect. They have the same consistency, whether it's in New York, Florida, Oklahoma, Southern California, Subway. So that I know exactly what to expect. So I can get the foot-long sandwich there, no problem. Then the night before, I always try to do a smallish kind of a pasta thing, just so I can get a good meal, feel full, and not go overboard with it. So in this case, went to a pasta restaurant, had some lobster stuffed ravioli, which is pretty good. So
no sushi, nothing like that?
No, nothing that's going to create any sort of issues or water retention like that. Oh, and then throughout the 2 to 3 days prior as well, I'm also loading up on electrolytes. So I do the F2C nutrition electro or hydrodurance, I think it's called. Yeah, the hydrodurance.
Okay.
And I'll do 2-3 bottles a day, give or take, maybe. So.
Okay. Now, whenever you start thinking of how much sleep you want to get the night before the race, are you wanting to go to bed at a certain time? What does this look like?
Through running, when I used to run, coach always said it was the sleep matters most is 2 days before the race. The night before the race, I was in bed 9:30 and probably asleep by 10:30 or so. And I wanted to stay up and watch the Berlin Marathon and watch Kipchoge break the record. But then I was like, I got a race tomorrow. That would have been really cool to see.
And I fell asleep. I didn't want to go through the eternal struggle of going back and forth of watching this guy or sleeping for my own race benefit. So about 9:30 to 10:30.
Do you regret not staying up?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, having done previously with the 70.3 Worlds where I worked out at 8 in the morning that day, and then I stayed up. I did a 3-hour bike ride at 8 in the morning on the Saturday, and then I was watching. I was like, hell, I'm going to pull out my trainer. So I pulled out my trainer, set up in front of the television, and did a ride from 11 p.m. that night to 1 a.m. the next day while watching that. And apparently I was the only idiot doing this. I don't know, but I thought it was pretty cool. So those guys were riding hard. So it was kind of inspiring.
Wow. Now, whenever you wake up the day of the race, you probably check your phone first thing to see the new world record being broke. Do you instantly regret not staying up and seeing it?
No, because you can, you go to like, the run message boards, everyone knows what they are. You can, they will give you the recap and of what he did per mile. They'll probably tell you, did he stick a thumbs up at 440 yards? Did he, whatever they're like, they will, anytime this guy farts, the whole world knows about it. So, I mean, it's like his whole life is under a telescope because of his notoriety. So, I mean, yes, it would have been really cool to see, but I mean, you can get any recap anywhere and of, oh man, he's got this arm warmer on. Maybe I should start wearing arm warmers when I'm racing a marathon, or he runs this or he does this or whatever, So, I mean, it would have been cool to see, but it's not worth sacrificing the race sleepover.
Right. Well, what about the shoes he's wearing?
So those shoes, and again, we're getting down in the damn weeds again, but so he wears the Vaporfly Elite. And so if you haven't worn those, you'll see a lot of triathletes wearing the Vaporfly 4%. Essentially, it's a shoe with this foam on it that Nike claims 80 to 85% return of your energy expenditure. So the day after your race, if your legs are sore, they don't feel sore on this, or they're not as much. Or if your legs feel fatigued during the race, they don't feel fatigued in this. In addition, it's got an embedded carbon plate in the actual shoe itself, which acts as a spring. It forces a more natural running biomechanic that makes you faster. I have that Stride power meter, and I wanted to conduct my own test. So anyone that's listening, this is an N=1 test. It's not exact. I took 16 different pairs of running shoes to the exact same treadmill, and I kept the treadmill on the entire time. I got off the treadmill, and typically I would run around 300 watts. That shoe was 40 to 50 watts less than everything else. Wow. So it's inherently more efficient. That said, if you don't run that way, first of all, don't expect the shoe just to turn you from a 2-hour half Ironman to a 1 hour and 10-minute Ironman. That is not going to happen. Will you be a little bit faster? Possibly. It's $250 and they sell out worldwide in a second. So, and then you can go on eBay and spend $300 to $600 for a pair if you want. That's not my thing. So, but is it a good shoe? It's a fabulous shoe. There's a reason why people are wearing it. Look at all of the elites that are in triathlon that do not have a shoe sponsor. The bulk of them are wearing this shoe. There is a reason why.
Well, I mean, because I know Newton used to be a really famous triathlon shoe. Mm-hmm. I say used to because it seems like they're kind of fading out now from what I see. But they used to say, hey, lug out, you're going to land on the forefoot, you're going to bounce back and all that. Was there any truth to that? In your mind, I'm not saying it like as an expert or anything, but in your mind, was there truth to that?
I did like the Newton shoes. I was a little upset when they went from the 4 lugs to the 5 lugs. I legitimately did like the 4 lug shoes. I don't know if I think it was a cost and a durability issue. They used to be a former sponsor of Big Sexy Racing. And so, I would have a shoe and then all of a sudden one of the lugs would pop. So I'd have to send it back. And I think the shoes were inherently, I want to say 150 to 180 or something like that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I love that 4-lug shoe. I mean, I actually still have a few pair that I will wear for racing for short course because I like them so much. Okay. And I can get it on quick without any issue.
Right. Now with the Newtons, they were actually meant to run for more miles than most pairs of shoes. Is that right?
Like longer lasting, like I could put more miles on it?
Right, because with most shoes, they say retire them between 350 and 400 miles, where the Newtons could go 5, 6, 7, 800 miles.
Oh, I'd never heard that. I used to run a lot. First thing I would tell anyone, always rotate 2 pairs of shoes. Never wear the same pair of shoes 2 days in a row, ever. That said, I retire them at 300 miles or 6 months, whichever comes first.
Why 6 months? Why a time interval?
So why that? When you start wearing a shoe, it's not the outsole that is what wears out. It's the midsole, the foam. It starts after a certain usage. It starts to get brittle and get harder and starts to lose its cushioning properties. I believe Newton uses EVA, which is a big, long chemical name, but that's very consistent across many shoe brands of what they use. Adidas's new thing now is the Boost foam. Nike's is they've got the Epic React foam, something like that. And then the Zoom X is what's in the Vaporfly. All this, and Hoka, I can't remember what theirs is called. But so they're coming out with these new foams that respond better, but that are longer lasting. But if it's a typical EVA shoe, I would say just 6 months, then retire it. And then, buy another pair of shoes essentially, or whatever it needs to. But I wouldn't last, like all these guys say, I duct tape my shoes together. Great, dude. There's a cliff over there. If your friends are jumping off it, I'm sure you're jumping off it too.
Yeah, because it seems like after a certain point, you're really testing the waters with getting injured because you don't want to buy another pair of shoes.
Yeah, I mean, and like we discussed earlier, most shoes, $100, $150. I mean, I couldn't run, and then I think it was a blunt trauma impact to what I did to my foot. I think I jumped out of something. I think. So it wasn't due to a footwear issue. It was just due to a me issue or or just weird freaky inflammation issue. So that said, are you willing to risk all this time, all this training, all this race entry fee over $150? I mean, that doesn't seem like a cost benefit analysis for me personally.
That makes sense. So to kind of rein back a little bit, to get back to the race here.
Yes.
You're getting up on race day, heading to transition. How was your transition set up the morning of the race and all this fun stuff?
I'm one of the first people there almost all the time. I'm just neurotic in that sense. So I get there, transition is 5. And plus parking for this one, it's city streets, or you have to pay money and park a little further away at the high school, and they shuttle you in. So if you get there early, then you get a good parking spot. So, I mean, I was 2 blocks away maybe from transition. So anything that I forgot, where's my car? Easily walk there, easily remedied. So get there, check the pump setup, or pump my tires, excuse me, not the pump setup. There was a coastal mist, I guess, on the bike, so wipe that down. You see who registered for the race and decide not to show up, so you can kind of, talk to your other, rack mates and spread out the bikes so it's, sharing the space equally, I guess. And then, just kept sipping the hydrodurance drink and getting ready for the day.
Okay. Now, whenever you leave transition, you're trying to hit up the bathroom, get ready for the putting your wetsuit on and all this fun stuff. At some point, they make an announcement about the swim that was kind of unique about this race, and that stands out from other races I've even talked to previously. What announcement did they make that made this unique?
So I'm not 100% sure that it was made over the loudspeaker, but because the waves were pretty violent this year, and it wasn't like, okay, there's a wave, another wave, and it was not normal set-wise, they offered you an out, from what I heard. Again, I'm not 100% on this, but apparently they offered you an out that if you didn't want to do the swim, that's fine, but then I think you would get a maximum time of 1 hour and 10 minutes for the swim, what was normally acceptable. And like I said, I do not know if anyone took this or not, but those were some big damn waves, and they threw you around like a rag doll. I mean, a normal swim should be 1900. I swam 2345. So, and to give an idea of perspective on these things, last year I was 27:30 in the swim. This year I was 37 minutes.
10 minutes
now,
slower.
10 minutes slower. And from what I heard, again, I haven't checked the results yet. I haven't done my normal data dig thing. The winner, or the guy that was first out of the water, was like 27 minutes or something like that. So I don't know if it was long, short, or everyone has to deal with the same course. So it was fun though. I mean, there were big waves, and what would happen is a wave would hit you. You'd obviously dive under it. And if you didn't see the one behind it, which was immediately right behind it, that would get you. And it would just throw you around. And I could never get comfortable in the race, or in the swim, excuse me, not in the race, but in the swim. So it just was what it was. Everybody's got to deal with the same waves. Everyone's got to deal with the same thing. The second loop of the swim, the waves were significantly more violent than in the first wave.
Wow. Now, you're using a wetsuit for this race. Obviously, now you're using tinted goggles or just regular goggles? What does this look like?
For this one, I used a smoke lens.
Wow.
I don't know the brand of the goggle, but it's got a big, thick band on it. I think it's Aquasphere Cayman, I want to say. I think. It's just because it's got this big band on it that the band will outlive the goggles. So the band won't snap. It's really thick. It's big. So, and I've been using them, and they fit my eye sockets really well. So let's go. Yeah. And it's a smoke tinted lens. It's not one of the mirror ones, because those seem to fog up on me all the time. Even if I do anti-fog, for some reason they fog up on me. Maybe I'm just retarded or something. So
whenever you spray the anti-fog on there, you need to wipe it down a little bit, put some water on it, then wipe it down again. You know that?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Okay, just
for some reason.
Making sure. All right.
Yeah.
Now, with this swim, you're in your corral to get ready to go. Is this a rolling start here?
Yeah, so they had the little white placards up under 25 minutes, 25 to 30, which is where I seated myself, which is typically where I seated myself. And then 30 to 33 or something like that. And so you get up there, and they had 2 people going every 5 seconds, and you could hear the beep timer. And then as they went later on, they let more people go out at the time, I guess. But for the first few, it was 2 people every 5 seconds. That's how they decide. I mean, it's very well organized. It's not unorganized. So, and this one, we started south because apparently if there's a current in the water, they will start, if it's like say it's a north to south current, they will start on the north and then do the south of the loop, so you swim up, then south, and then back in. In this case, we started south, swam out west, went north to go along with the current, and then back in, obviously east, towards the beach.
Okay, I'm just trying to picture that in my mind, and it's a little hard.
Well, so picture, so it's like a north-south current, right? So if whichever where the current is going, like, so if it's a south-facing current, they would start northbound, and that way then you don't have to swim against the current, essentially.
That makes sense.
Like if it's going that way.
Gotcha. Now, whenever you started actually realizing that these waves were going to be a little bit more of a challenge than what you're used to in the water, how did you prepare for this mentally?
Everyone's got to deal with it. And when you see the wave, if you can dive under them, you notice one of these little, like, kind of pulls at you a little bit, but it's not that bad. And most people want to walk out. That is a genuinely bad idea. You want to be swimming. You don't want, you just want to be swimming. So, like, and I remember on the second loop, even though it was hard for me, there's all these people that are just getting into the water, and the lifeguards are out there screaming at them, "You gotta swim, you gotta swim." Well, if you're not swimming, it's going to continue to throw you back. So,
wow. Now, you get done with the swim and get all that fun stuff out of the way. It was a really rough swim. I think that's almost an understatement for here, because this was probably one of the most challenging swims I've heard about. But it's salt water. Did you drink any salt water?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. They weren't normal, consistent waves. I drank some salt water, and on the first loop, on the second turn buoy, I decided to throw up a little bit. So,
decided to, or was it just
well, my body decided to. It doesn't like the salt water so much. I can't stand the damn salt water, so it's terrible. I know I'm going to sound like a total pussy for this. I would prefer a lake swim over an ocean swim every day of the week. And all your listeners are gonna be like, "Oh, this guy's a total pussy." And you're right, I am. But guess what? I did Coeur d'Alene, 2 years ago on the full, and I did the 70.3 last year. And if you're thirsty in the race, you can take a drink. You aren't gonna die. You aren't gonna get giardia. It's very refreshing.
Wow.
So you aren't doing that during this ocean swim. You'll probably get sick.
Gosh.
Like I did. So
you get done with the swim, you head out. Are the wetsuit strippers here?
There are some. I didn't use it. So like you come out and the run is pretty long to transition
Through
so
sand.
You have to go through sand a little bit, and then you get on this parking lot sideway kind of stuff. And as you enter the south part of transition, the very end of it, there are some wetsuit strippers in there, but I'm already down at my waist on it. So I would have to continue going further than just to go north again or to far left again in the transition. It didn't seem appropriate for where I was at.
It was not efficient.
And given the short course nature of what I've used to do, it really doesn't. I mean, for me, I can get out of the wetsuit. I mean, it's already down my waist. You push it down once and you step, and I'm out. So to sit down, have someone yank it off, then pull me back up, there is no time savings there. It's like, I mean, I understand why people do it. That's just not something that I want to do. Okay.
Now, for this course, you're using a specific kit here. You're not using the 2-piece kit. Why not?
Well, I always race in the On-Way Apparel, the Joey cut. And I use the platinum fabric because that tested fastest. Plus it dries really quick too. I use the 1-piece because it is faster. Bar none, it is faster. Assuming it's properly fitting. A lot of people, you see them out there and they go, "Oh, I got this 1-piece kit." And it's a baggy like a t-shirt. That's stupid. That slows you down. So, but I use the 1-piece kit. It fits real well. As you can see, I still have the tan line on my arm of where the thing actually fits me at. So, I just use that kit, and it's fully on me. It's not unzipped or zip. I mean, you see people have the zipper failures like Daniela Reef or whatever at 70.3 Worlds. It's not worth it to me. So I just zip it up before I put the wetsuit on.
Wow. Now, with this, with the bunching of the shoulders, how does the bunching of the shoulders actually impact drag on the bike?
So when you're sitting on the machine, obviously the machine is the bike. So the first thing that the air hits is your head, obviously, right? So your helmet's going to cover that. You do the best to minimize that. And the second thing is going to be the armpit area. So if you, the more bunched and the more wrinkled up it gets, first the old adage is skin is slow. Skin is slow. That's how it is. Then the old adage is, if the more wrinkles, the less aerodynamic it's going to be. Some of the best kits to look at, Frodeno's kit and how it fits him, that's flawless. I think Gomez's kit fits really well. I didn't notice Brownlee's kit so much. It was just ugly. And then, Keenley's kit fits really well too. So those ones are really, really well fitting kits. Now, obviously they're pros and they're going to get custom made kit, but that's what you want it to look like. You want it to look, those guys have it right. Very flat, very smooth against your body. And what people will say is, like, I'm a large, I should be a medium large more or less, right? Mine fits tight on my, on the bicep, which is kind of constricting a little bit, but, you don't want to go and, okay, if you're a large, go to a size small. Because then the fabric has aerodynamic properties, but you're pulling it apart similar like if you were stretching a plastic bag, right? So then you're ruining like a lot of the aerodynamic benefit that fabric has. So you want it to be snug and tight, but not to the point where it's stretched out. Like if you're a large person, don't go buy a small just to get it to fit tight. Pick another, cut, maybe a medium, maybe, but you don't want to go overboard with it, with the whole sizing.
So you want it to fit snug, but you don't want it to be overly tight.
Yes. Like you don't want to have sausage legs.
Do you have sausage legs?
No.
Okay. You had to check. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. I got to check.
So on the bike, you wanted to go off of RPE here. Your normalized or your FTP was 305 to 315 going into this race. What RPE did you want to hit?
I just wanted to feel like, as I had done an Olympic three weeks prior to this race, and I wanted to ride at the same effort level as that one. Truth be told, that was actually a higher wattage power, but it felt the same because that one, there was a lot of turns in that race, and that was, again, flat. And I was riding an 1123 cassette for this because I wanted the gear ratios consistent, right? So if I went from one gear to the next gear, my RPMs in the bike wouldn't go from 93 to 82 or have the power to spike massively. So that way, if you want to go 24.7 miles an hour, okay, well, next year we'll get 24.9 at roughly the same, same relative effort at the same RPMs of the thing. That said, I've been training with power long enough to where I know what the expectation is and what power is going to feel like. That said, the 231 is also I believe that encounters everything. And so when I'm coming into town on all 4 loops, I decided to stretch out and relax. So is that understated for what truly I did? A little bit, because it's including things where I was coasting and I was just stretching out on the bike, just not because my fit's poor, my back was hurting, just because I don't want those things to encounter. And I have to turn and go short anyways. Oh, also on the bike, we're not talking about the bike. Oh yeah, we're talking about the bike. Yeah. On the first loop, I'm coming back into town. Some dumbass woman, just totally ignored what the traffic people and pulled out right in front of some of us. I mean, we had to grab a handful of brake, and Ironman couldn't have done anything differently here. They had people there stopping the traffic. This woman did not give a shit. And so she went out, and there's riders coming out more than was going back into town because we're at the front edge of the race, I guess. So I had to grab a handful of brake. And I mean, if I wasn't paying attention, I would have ran into the van and probably went through her windows like Matt Russell did at Kona. And that just sounded terrible to me. So that was awful.
How did that make you feel at that point in time?
What's that?
How did that make you feel at that point in time?
Scared the shit out of me. Like that was that. I mean, and again, Ironman couldn't have done anything different. You can't control stupid. I mean, if she goes up and over a sidewalk to avoid a barricade, what do you want them to do? I mean, they can only control so much, and they can't shut down like a highway or completely. They had one side of the road available to us, but there's people that still live there. We got to be courteous to who lives in towns, because we have these events there. So,
right now, as far as the bike ride goes, how's the quality of the road here?
Chip seal, not too bad. It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst. There wasn't, I did notice flats, but I think it's an out and back 4 times. So you're going to see a lot. I mean, I saw, Connor, he was the mobile bike wrench on the course. He was always on the second, third, and fourth loops. He was always repairing someone's flat, but inherently that's just going to happen. People are going to run over spot bumps. They're going to fill it up improperly. They're going to maybe install their tube improperly. I didn't have an issue, but that doesn't mean other people can't install a tube properly without pinching it. So,
do you think that's a good skill to actually know how to do before you race? I think that's an obvious question or an obvious answer, but I feel like there are some people that actually go to races that don't know how to change their own flat.
They don't know how to change it, but they don't know how to change it properly. I mean, some people will. I've been to a few of the bike clinics, and I've done my own wrench work for a while, but they just slap it on there and fill it up. Well, you have to make sure that you're not going to pinch it between the tire and the wheel. That would immediately kind of tear it or create a hole in the tube that could theoretically the structural integrity of the tube, I guess.
Gotcha. So how do you avoid that when you change it?
Just take 30 more seconds. When I install it, I put the tube in, I put 2 pumps on my pump when I put the tube in there, so that way it's got substance to it, right? But I can still relatively easily squish it. So I put it in the tire, and then you seat the other bead of the tire, and then I go around and I pinch the tube or pinch the tire, and I go around the whole thing of the tire to make sure I can't see the tube. Now the latex makes it a whole lot easier because the tubes are not black. So I'm colorblind, and they say they're pink, which that's fine. So, they look different. So they look not pink, but they look not black. So And it's not black and white like a Charlie Chaplin movie. So, yeah, I know that's the next question. It's not like that.
Okay. Now, whenever you think of the road quality here, you did see some flats, but did you see any mechanicals or any wrecks?
I may have seen a few mechanical issues, but I mean, for the most part, I'm in aero position and it's head down, power up. And I mean, I know I'm supposed to stay to the right, but because I know it's a 4-loop course, I ride in the middle of the lane because I just know I'm going to be passing people the entire time. So it's, and if I run into, if I get close to a group, I mean, I sight like I would in swimming every now and then, but it's head down, power up, and I know where the turns are going to be. And so it just, I'm kind of oblivious to what's going on around me, I guess.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, you've done the course before. It's not your first rodeo as a race, and you feel comfortable and you're more experienced than a beginner.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the aid stations here, how were they? Were they manned well? Did they have enough trash cans? Did you have enough time to get all that you needed and throw it out? What was this like?
There is one aid station on this course because remember, it's a 56 mile race, but it's the same out and back loop, right? You catch that on the way back into so you've gone out and then you're coming back into town. It's about a half mile from into town, right? And it's on the right-hand side. The only time I had an issue with it was on like the 3rd loop or 4th loop or something. I mean, I carry all the nutrition with me on the bike. I mean, it's in the down tube. So like it's a tube inside, it's a bladder inside the actual tube. So it's never going to eject. Okay. I'm not going to lose it. So I don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. I have the front hydration on me and that one I drink from, but when I go to the aid station, I grab a bottle of water and I splash myself and I drink some, and I splash myself and I drink some. That said, I had this guy, we're going 20 something. All of a sudden he slows down to a minuscule pace of like 5 miles an hour and I had to get the water bottle just cause I was like, okay, I was kind of getting a little hot. And this guy stops right in front of me. It's like, dude, it makes you laugh. I mean, it upsets you because you kind of freak out a little bit, but it's not going to affect my entire day. So like, you just have to kind of like, all right, man, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I just don't want to get in an accident. And I always point out to whoever the volunteer is, so that way they know that, hey, I'm wanting water. I'll call out water, and I'll point to a person. And then, because if you're coming by at 25 mile an hour and that bottle is stopped, like, so it's really hard. You have to get it perfectly, right? So, but I thought it was manned well on the bike. I mean, I've never had an issue with it. I don't fuel there. So again, but they did have the Arrowhead water bottles and the lids were popped off, which was nice. And then they had the sport bottles of Gatorade, but I saw that, but I didn't ever grab one because I have the nutrition myself on the bike. So, I saw them there. And they obviously have the gels and all that other stuff. But again, I didn't grab any of that.
Okay. So your nutrition plan calls for about 300 calories an hour there, give or take?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Now, did you have any cramping or GI issues?
No. I had to go to the bathroom. I had to take a piss starting on the 3rd lap. And I was like, all right, I can hold this. It's not going to be much longer. So I held that until transition 2. Granted, that's probably a really bad idea. I spend a lot on my bike. I work a lot on it. I don't really want to pee on it that badly. I mean, I've done it before.
Unless
I feel
you're doing a full.
Yeah, so I can hold it. It's not that hard. It wasn't discomforting, so I just held it until transition 2.
Okay. It's not that hard.
Yes.
So on the bike course, is there anything you tell someone to be aware of that hasn't done this course yet?
There's, as you get depending on where you're in the swim, the first loop, you're always, very open. Second loop, 3rd loop, and 4th loop, there's always just a lot of people. There was this guy, I sent him a message on Facebook and he was right close to me. And, on one of the loops, he goes, hey, that guy in the green bike. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, he goes, he sucks because this guy was just drafting behind us all the time. Like, so we catch him and I don't know whether we were lapping him or whatever, but so there is a picture taken of me. It does have we're on the roundabout turns and he's drafting like no one's business. If you look at his splits, the first 2 time checks, he's going a little over 20 miles an hour, like 20 point something. Then with us, he's going 23.9, 24 minutes or something like that, or 24 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden, it was like me and this one guy, we're working together. We're like legal following distance, right? But on the fourth loop and third loops, there's so many people out there. It's really difficult to in and out. So that's why I was riding in the middle of the road. I saw this guy lean back like he was like Cindy Crawford taking the refreshing drink of a Pepsi or something like that. And so I was like, fuck this noise. So I put in like 600 watt surge for like 30 seconds. And I knew that elastic was going to snap just like that. And I mean, really, dude, you gotta cheat. Come on, bro. I mean, that's not okay. And so after that happened, the elastic was snapped and he went back to 20 miles an hour all of a sudden because he couldn't find someone to cheat off of, you know? And so good for that guy. And then I saw the same guy on the run. I'm like, hey, way to cheat, buddy. And his half marathon was like, I think a 2:30 or something like that. So you could clearly tell like he was in a space that he shouldn't have been in, but to each their own, right? I mean, if you want to cheat, go right ahead. I mean, not one of us is making money on the sport. If you can sleep with yourself at night based on cheating, good for you, bro. Like, I mean, rock and roll. You know, I don't care, but that's my own opinion, I guess.
Wow. Now, how do you think Ironman or any race official or any race organization could actually have a way to measure drafting without officials? Do you think that it's even possible?
I don't. I mean, you could have you'd have to have more time checks. In theory, you could say you could have similar to how like the police have the cameras or the overhead like the planes that capture your speed. They could have like in the GPS tracker, but you'd also have to have like you'd have to have like a cell pack or something with you that transmits data like to and from. And if someone was recorded like, you know, you cross the time at this point and they're behind you, then I guess that would work. But I don't think there's a way to ever stop it, especially in a course like, there's nothing wrong with this course, but it's 4 loops. There's
the reason
900 people.
Yeah, the reason I bring this up is because we talked back in early April, before Ironman Texas.
Yes.
And we all know what happened at Ironman Texas. And
yeah.
I feel like a prevention that could be manless, so to speak, would be a valuable solution, whether it be check-ins where there's mats spaced out, cameras, whatever, over time. I mean, something like that where it could be manless would be something very valuable.
Yes, it could be, but it would have to transmit data back and forth, I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and because I'm not an engineer and I'm not a tech guy on that. I mean, but I mean, if someone has to cheat on that, like the guys that are going to win are still going to be the same guys that are going to win, right? I mean, when you saw these guys, like, I mean, you saw the guy that won. I mean, you saw Joel Maley, you saw Jonathan Fettick. I mean, you see them out riding the bike, and they're going. I mean, there's a reason why they're up there in the lead. They're not cheating at all, and nor would they just wouldn't cheat. I mean, they put in the hard efforts. They put in like prior to this. They know how to race. The work. Exactly. I mean, like someone like me. I mean, if someone wants to cheat off me, great, go for it, bro. I mean, like that guy did for 2 loops. I mean, and the only time that it caused an issue was like on the turns. I carry very good speed through that. But if he doesn't, you know, I mean, he could run into me or do something weird like that. And that's something that's out of the control. But I mean, honestly, it's a big issue, but it's not one worth changing the sport over. I mean, we all have to have ethics and morals. I mean, it's like a kind of a self-policed thing. I mean, it's called doing the right thing, I guess.
Yeah, because in all reality, they can't justify having that many officials out there over the course of 56 or 112 miles, whichever it be, or even for an Olympic. I mean, you just can't have that many officials out there to monitor every single point of the race.
Yes.
Now, as far as your goal for the bike ride, did you execute your strategy the way you wanted to at that point in time?
Yeah, so I felt like I had done really well after I was coming in. After mile 54, you come back into town, and I was like, okay, let's just relax. It doesn't matter if I spin it out of this. It's going to save me 30 seconds. Or that's not going to make or break my entire day. The point of it was to push it a little further than I had. Because I remember I'm used to racing at 190, 200 watts or something like that. I mean, because again, I'm super aero, so that's all that's really necessary. So I did it 230, just a little bit more. Okay, cool. I mean, and that was, I mean, anytime I looked, I was at 250, 270, 290. I was up in some of those other, because, I mean, the higher wattage that I'm used to in a 56 mile race. So, yeah, I mean, I executed exactly how I wanted to. I got all the nutrition I did. I did not feel dead off the bike. I felt like, okay, that's a good effort. Let's go and run this half marathon.
Did you have a certain way that you wanted to approach T2 from a lower power, higher cadence, or anything like this to kind of prepare your legs to start running or stretching out any?
Kind of. I shifted up 2-3 gears and just kind of easy spun, relax. I popped the bow dials, took my foot out of the shoe, kind of shook the leg out a little bit, each one. Just like, all right, it's time to get ready, guys. Speaking to my legs as a guy. So I said, all right, time to get ready. Let's go.
Okay. Now you get to T2, you get ready to get off the bike. How does this go for you, and how does T2 go?
So I'd done a lot of short course, so I fly mount and fly dismount. Very normal for me. It's just, and I use the shoes that got boa dials on it, and the back falls off of it, of the shoe. Just kind of drops down like a drawbridge, I guess. And so just pull the foot out, nice, easy, stand on the left shoe, just kind of cruising on in. Elaine Gower, she was there in the penalty tent, and she got a pretty good picture of me dismounting, which is kind of cool. But just really normal. Just get to the dismount line. My rack position was maybe 20 yards. No, 20 yards is too long. Maybe 10 yards in like down the middle of the chute. So it was like, okay. I mean, like I could see exactly where it was. You knew where it was because you saw your bag, you saw your transition mat or whatever. And it's always a nice feeling when there's not many bikes in transition area. You're like, okay, I done a good job here.
Wow.
So, and that's what it was like. So, and there, I put my socks on. I put the shoes on. I have them with the elastic laces. So just easy, quick pop on, put my headband on, and then grab my sunglasses, race belt or the number belt thingy. And then I have a nutrition bottle that is strapped to my hand. So I grab that, and anything that I can do while I'm running, I do that. So my transitions were not fast though. I mean, compared to some of the guys that are doing it, maybe I was taking my sweet ass time. Oh,
you were.
I went to the bathroom in transition 2. I took a piss there.
Okay.
So that was counted in there. So that's why that happened. So.
Okay. Now, knowing that this is going to be on sand, did you wear like any type of things like to keep the sand out of your shoes, or did you want to have a certain footing on the loose sand versus the packed sand? Because for me personally, I fucking hate sand in my shoes. Can't stand it. I've been to Afghanistan twice, once as a civilian, once in the army. I hate sand. I hate the moon dust. I hate all that. And if it gets into my shoes or boots, I'm not happy. And it makes me uncomfortable. I can feel the grit, the grind. How did you prevent this?
I didn't. The shoes have little slits in it. If you have to see so I wear the Vaporfly 4%. And so it just comes in. There's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, if you don't like sand, don't do this race. It's 10 miles on the goddamn sand. Okay. There is absolutely nothing you can do to avoid that. Okay. So let's be very, very clear. It's 10 miles on the sand. If you don't like sand, don't do this race. That's real simple because you're going to run a lot on there. And my plan was, because I hadn't been running much at all. The longest run I did was 45 minutes prior to this F run. So I was running, and because I'm not allowed to see pace, mileage, or anything. So all I can see on my Garmin is time, like just elapsed total time, because a lot of runs are per time for the coach. Cadence, and then power, because I use the Stride power meter. That's it. So this one, because I hadn't ran so much, we were just going to focus on strictly cadence. So when I was running, the Garmin records it as it doubles both feet, right? So if you're going to say 160, so my goal was a minimum of 163. So you divide that in half. Obviously, it's a little it's like 81 and a half steps a minute, 82 steps a minute, right? So that's what I'm trying to focus on. I'm trying to raise that up just to create more efficiency. Some of the Kenyans do 92, I think. But you want, I don't want to be super low, and I don't want to be really ridiculously high, because the higher I go, the faster I ultimately go. And it's like,
I don't want to do a 4 flat damn mile, and that would just wipe me out. At the same time, I'm a mental case, so this is why I'm not allowed to see pace or distance, because then I can do and I know how fast I'm running as a general rule, but so I just try to alleviate that so it doesn't mentally freak me out. If I see a 6:30 mile or something like that, well, pace and cadence say I can do this, okay, let's do that. And then I would just walk in the aid stations, and the aid stations on the run, fantastically managed. They had water, the Coke, the Gatorade, ice water even, and then the gels and the chomps and stuff. But I do the handheld bottle nutrition. I drink that every so often. Like, just, you know what? When you think about it, take a sip. When you drink, it's gels mixed with water. And when you think about it, take a sip. And then every aid station, I'd throw water on me, or I just sip on water in my mouth.
Okay, so what kind of handheld bottle do you have?
Is
it one from Nathan?
No, it's Hydra Flask or a helium belt or fuel belt helium bottle. It's got the strap built onto it. It's a small little bottle. It's like the ones that you can put in the back of the belt, and it's got a strap already built onto it. So it's the fuel belt helium or something like that.
Okay. Now, I know I talked to Jonathan whenever he did Norseman, and he talked a lot about his training going into Norseman, and he also focuses on cadence, but he says, I want to say he said anything above 85 will lead to like a sub 6 minute mile for him, and he's just like sprinting at that point, and it's just terrible for him to focus on such a high cadence, and he needs to go a little bit lower. So how do you know what cadence to focus on, and how did you and Adam come to this number?
Well, when we first just said, okay, let's not worry about this. Let's record some runs, record some data points, right? And all of this is without me knowing with the Garmin. So then he had me do this one run one time, and me, like Jonathan, I had a cadence of 180 something, so it's over 90 steps a minute. And I'm doing like a 5:15 mile in training for ocean, and it's like, Jesus, you don't want to be doing that. And then like every now and then he has me do what's called a goal mile, where I warm up for X period of minutes. It's not just like 5-10 minutes. It's like 40, 50 minutes. I go to the middle school track here. It's a cinder track. And then I run a mile, and they're less than 5 minutes. Well, I think one was like a 4:47. And when I look at the cadence there, it's like, I mean, I'm a track runner. I'm a track speed guy. And so you see his cadence, like, shit, if I put too much cadence in there, I'm going way too hard for what my body can go at. And so I think there's a good mid 80s would be good for me physiologically. Right. So that's why we decided on that one. And we're continually working at it with not a long, big stride, but a triathlon running and running in general are two separate things.
Really?
Well, you don't see a guy looking like how Eliud Kipchoge runs. They don't look like that.
The forward lean, the good sprinter step, all that. That's not triathlon running.
That's not triathlon running. Look, for a Frodeno or a Javier Gomez or Alistair Brownlee, fine, right? But when you look at the regular, more normal people, they ain't looking like that. So, but those guys, the guys that like Eliud did not ride 112 miles or ride 56 miles before that, So I don't know if he could.
Right.
So
now, whenever you start getting to the later portions of the run, knowing that this is all on sand, the high that day was around 80 degrees, the heat coming off of the sand versus pavement versus grass, what is this like for you physiologically? Not that word. I can't say it.
I'm a big dude. I don't like races in the heat. Now, that said, this is close. It's convenient. There is no shade on this course. So 100% zero shade. You run under the pier. So I guess there's shade for about 2 seconds each loop. So, okay, if you want to call that shade, fine. Prove me wrong. 99% of this damn race is in the sun. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I just got to work on keeping myself cool. I didn't do any heat acclimation before this race like I normally would. I just didn't, I didn't blow the race off. I just wanted to do this, just have fun. Let's see where I'm at, and then I can improve from there. Right. I mean, it's a 5:13, which that's really not a very good time for me. I mean, that's a bad day, but a 5:13 in retrospect, when I first started this thing, it's like, oh, okay, I would have killed for a 5:13 race, and now that's a bad day. So it just shows me where I've come to. Things I've learned from this is I'm a bit of a chubster. I'm a little fat. So all the guys that were ahead of me are really leaned out. So I need to really focus on body composition. I really need to focus on that and stop the pizza Fridays and having 2 pizzas every Friday. That can't do that anymore.
Because you need to lose, what, 5 pounds-ish?
15.
15?
Yeah, 170 be a good weight. So I need to get down there, and I'm 185, so...
Man. So whenever you actually got towards the later portions of the run, was this mentally pretty hard for you, or were you doing pretty good mentally?
Mentally, I'm fine. I've noticed that mentally, when you get really mentally drained and you become out of it, you haven't, the individual hasn't consumed nutrition. There is less water and less blood in your brain, right? Which is reflected by your electrolyte consumption. So they just didn't consume enough or regularly enough. I mean, you look at the guys that were up there. I mean, I saw Joel the whole time. Joel is a friend of mine on Team F2C with me. He's in the Canadian military. He got 2nd overall, I think, maybe 2nd overall in the age group, and 3rd overall. He was really up there. And so I'd see him on the run, like, hey, bud, way to go, way to go. And I'd see him do the same to Jonathan. And they're all mentally coherent the whole time. Like, they're not, they don't have the drug look on their face. They know exactly what's going on, exactly where they're at, and know what they're doing. And they can give you thumbs up. They can talk to you. So, and they're consuming nutrition the whole time. It's not like they're going, and they're going hard. I mean, they're doing 6 minutes on the damn sand, and 6 minutes a mile. And yeah, they're feeling good. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they're mentally coherent. I did see this one woman. She's in the Navy, or a kit said, and I don't know what lap she was on, but she looked like she was going to die. I mean, like, to the point where she fell down in the sand, like in the soft sand, like, and she got back up, and I think she finished the race, but it looked, I felt bad for her. I almost wanted to stop and, like, carry her, like, all right, let's do this together. But, that's,
if I did this race and I'm over here sweating like I normally would when I race, and I fell down in the sand, my day went from bad to worse because now I have sand everywhere.
Yeah, that would you all over your genital region. You'd get chafe, and there'd be sand in places you don't want to get it out, and that would be a really, really bad day.
Wow.
So
now, as far as the last few miles of the run goes, how does this go for you?
So you kind of so it's picture kind of like a big, like a U shape, or a big, like a C kind of, right? Like a block C. On the back end of the C, that's the out and back on the sand a lot. And then there's on the pavement, it's a little out and back on the C sections, right? So on the 4th loop, you go out on the pavement after you get off the sand, and then there's about 300 yards on the deep, deep, deep sand, like that never touches water ever, unless we're flooding. And then everyone else kind of veers right, and then on the finish you veer left, and so it's like, okay, so I veer left, and you don't see anyone ahead of you. You don't see anyone behind you. It's like, I'm out of the damn sand. Thank God. Like, I don't have to walk on this shit anymore. That's what you're thinking the whole time. And so then, I'm running down it, and, naturally you want to get a good finisher photo. So I look behind me, over my left shoulder. There's no one there. Okay. No really reason to sprint it in here. Let's just relax and take it all in.
Wow. So the finish shoot, how was the finish shoot for you?
It's really great. This one I really, really like. You run, and they have these weird arches that look like little McDonald's arches at Imperial Beach. It's kind of weird. It's like, okay, really, why are you celebrating McDonald's, my dude? But you run there, and you see the red carpet, and you're just like, oh, yes. Now I can stop this here in a bit here, and then I can actually start to work on cooling myself down. So,
wow. So after you cross the finish line, what'd you get to do next?
They handed you your medal. They took your chip off you, and then I always grab a whole bunch of, where they have the kiddie pools with the water bottles and ice in them. I always take ice, I take a bottle, dump it over my head, and then I grab big chunks of ice, and I put it in my crotch area and then down the back of my kit. So just to really cool me off, and I try to keep some of my armpits as well to cool me off more. So just as a quick precautionary, get cool fast. And then, so I walk out of the athlete area. Saw my mom and her boyfriend, they're great. They were cheering me on the whole day. And then, I went to the athlete food area. They had turkey sandwiches, spaghetti with meat sauce, some fruit, potato chips, Cliff bars. And for some reason they had Cliff blocks there. I don't know. I grabbed some. I was like, what? You just why are you going to eat this afterwards? You just have this gut full of sugar. But so then did that. They were going to let us into the transition area. So that was great. I looked at the app, saw that I got 28th in the age group. I was like, that France spot is, as much as I wanted to get the France spot, that would have been like a pipe dream goal for this race. I knew it wasn't going to roll to 28th. So we just, it ended up rolling to 8th place, by the way, if it matters, for the 30-35 age group, 35-39, excuse me. Got the bike, went back to the hotel, showered off, and then went and got, chicken and waffles and fries. I like French fries after my races.
Wow.
So of all the food that you could actually want at the post-race food venue that they serve or would serve, you would want chicken and waffles at that venue. Like if they could provide French fries and chicken and waffles, you'd be set.
If they would provide McDonald's French fries, I would be set. McDonald's French fries. See, they soak them in sugar water, like that's what they do, and then they're processed later on in McDonald's. But they're soaked in sugar water. The potatoes are. They taste good. They're the best fries. I don't care. Anyone can. Their opinion is wrong if they don't like McDonald's French fries.
Wow. So looking back on it, how well prepared for this race do you think you were?
The bike, very well prepared. The swim
was
honest.
The swim was choppy.
Everybody has to deal with that. So I don't know how you get better prepared for awful waves. I mean, you can't really prepare for it. And the run, I wasn't very well prepared, but the engine was still there. I mean, and I knew I was going to walk the aid stations in the first place. So that's. I mean, I'm okay with that. Like I'm very okay with the effort that I put out that day. I mean that was the 7th time I went running in 2 months. I mean, I'm really okay with how it went down. So I mean, the swim cost me 10 minutes from a year previously. So
right. So now let me ask you something that I haven't really asked anybody, but being that you have some experience here, you might be able to shed some light on something. So if you were a beginner triathlete and this was probably your first, maybe second 70.3. How would you know to say, I don't have the experience necessary to tackle this swim just by looking at the swim? And for my personal safety, I need to pull the cord now because I might actually be a victim of this swim course. How would you know that? How would you know when to pull that cord because your experience level isn't there?
I wouldn't. I'm a never say quit person. So I would never
safety.
Even for safety, I'd backstroke it. All you have to do is worry about getting beyond. It's not the first break. It's the second break that you have to get beyond. Now, conventional wisdom is going to say, well, I'm going to walk out. That's a bad idea. That is a really bad idea because it'll just throw you backwards, right? Because if you're perpendicular, that wave comes at you. If you're straight up and down, that wave's coming at you perpendicular, right? Big resistance like a windsock, right? Or in this case, it can be an water sock. I would focus on that. Like and even if you can't, maybe the day before or 2 days before or whatever, work on getting out past the waves. It's bad, but it's manageable. I mean, people have been doing this race for 40 years. There's a reason. I mean, it's people keep coming back to it. So.
Okay. Now for first timers doing this race next year, what's some advice that you would give them?
Just be prepared for, first I would take time and throw it out the window. Just don't even think about time. It's not worth it. Like say, I'm going to get 440. Don't do that because you don't know what it could be like. Yesterday at work, we checked the swim cam for the pier and it looked like glass and there was light waves. So we just caught it at a shitty time, right? That's how it's going to go. So you can't prepare for something like that. I would just say, be prepared for all eventualities, throw time out the window and then just do the swim, just focus on that. And then on the bike, focus on long sustained efforts at like say a sweet spot or something like that, like, 93% of your FTP or something. Just focus on things like that and focusing on holding an aero position for this race. And then the run, if it's low tide, great. You're going to run a hard pack. If it's not, you're going to run on some deeper sand and you got to deal with it.
Brace for impact.
And realistically, each loop that you do is like, if you're going down, it's only 2 miles, right? So just picture in your head, this is only 8 loops around a track. Everyone's ran on a track before a release. I hope they have. So it's only 8 loops. That's not that much. Just conceptually like, okay, I've done 1 loop. I've done 2 loops. And don't look up and say,
oh, I have to go all the way down. Don't look at that. That'll just mentally mess with you. Just focus on left foot, right foot, and keep moving. That's all.
Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned 85% is the magic number that you'd want to hit of your FTP for a 70.3. And just now you said 73%. So which is it?
No, 93% of the sweet spot. That's the intervals I would work on in practice.
Okay. What is this sweet spot? What do you mean?
So that's referencing a trainer road workout more or less. So they'll say your FTP, let's just say, is 100%. Which is like what it is. Trainer road does these workouts where it's 85 to 93% of your threshold. That's considered your sweet spot in air quotes. So that's where I would focus on longer sustained efforts on that 10, 15, 20 minutes. Okay. Where you're putting out big, good, solid power, not where you're really lighting a match, but good, solid power for a longer period of time.
Okay. Now, we covered quite a bit about your race. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I would not hesitate to recommend this race. Honestly, it's a great race. It's fun. It feels grassroots. Ironman couldn't have done anything to prevent the stupid car situation, the lady in the van. So that's beyond their control. I thought it was well manned. The volunteers were great. This supports, the military. I think it's like Ironman Foundation. So, and they also had 3 Navy parachute folks come on in, which was really, really cool. Like that was like that hasn't happened. That was in the past 2 years that I've done this race. They didn't do that. So they did that this year. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
And they parachute down and they come on in, land on the sand. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. So I know you're doing Indian Wells in December?
Yes, on December 9th.
Nice. Well, I would like to invite you back on the show after Indian Wells. We can hopefully hear about Nice and how that goes.
Absolutely, my friend.
Awesome. So I know we just need to wrap up here. What races are on your bucket list?
Bucket list. I love endurance events. I don't think these epic things. I get where they're mentally tough, but I like to do things to see who's fastest, not mentally toughest or physically toughest or things like that. So those aren't really in my wheelhouse. I still wanted to challenge Roth. I think that would be so much fun. Like, I mean, everyone watches the Tour de France and they see him on the mountain climbs and the spectators getting close. I think that's called Solar Hill. I'd love to do that race. I can't wait to do Chattanooga 70.3 with you, man. That's going to be a blast. We're going to have a hell of a time there. And then I want to do this year the smoke at my foot and the smoke of the fires up for Super League in Penticton, Canada. They canceled that, so I would like to do that race, something like that, where it's short, intense, similar to like the Island House one, where there's a lot of races but in a short period of time, and they're short in distance, high intensity.
I would love to go just to watch Super League because, I mean, Rachel McBride, Steph Corker, Nathan Killam. Like, I feel like I know all these pros that go up there. I mean, I think Amy VT was up there with Chris Bagg. I mean, all these people are up there, and I feel like I would just go up there and, all right, cool. It's like a family reunion. I know everybody.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would be, I mean, I like the format. I mean, longer is fine. I get that, but I like the bone-crushing power that are in these shorter, intense efforts too. So I love that kind of stuff. Just to change it up to keep it mentally stimulating more. So,
wow. So I already know what your definition of a perfect race is. So to kind of mix things up for you, in order of importance, which is most important for you on race day? Mental grit, physical fitness, or nutrition?
How far are we going on this race?
It's a race.
Well, if it's like, say, a full Ironman, nutrition's going to play the most important part because you have to fuel the race. For a shorter distance race, say a 70.3 or less, physical fitness, because mental toughness comes from the workouts that you've done, right? I mean, like, for example, I was mentally tough, and I'm not just going to base on one workout that I did, but when or maybe I'm just that stupid where I wake up at 11 o'clock at night because I'm watching a race and because I want to do a damn 2-hour trainer ride workout. Something like that. If you can do that workout and do it hard, then that provides mental toughness. But if you're not physically prepared for something, then that will cause an issue.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming back on here, spending a better part of 2 hours with me. I've enjoyed hearing about this, and really just talking again is always awesome to actually record some of our conversations, because this is just some of the candid shit we talk about.
It's been great, man. I love talking with you, dude.
Awesome. Well, have a good day, and we'll talk soon. All right, man?
All right. Later, buddy.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.